and we're back for another episode of JanisLamb's Crazy Life on Everyday Chaos. Okay. This is part of the documentary series. We're trying to catch back up with where we left off. And that was the dream, and then we were talking about how it all came true. So I ended up meeting Preston, which turns out is okay, so I met him because we went down to visit my uncle in Bakersfield. And we ended up staying the night at the lake. It was during summer. I think it was 4th of July. And we stayed there. We camped there at the lake. And we had our tents. They had their trailer. We rode on their boat and stuff like that. It was fun. It was a good old time. And so I'm catching up with my cousin, and she's hanging out with my kids. And Riley's almost one of us. No, she was one. She was going to be two soon, like the following year. So I guess she was only one for about, I don't know. I can't do math right now. Stop it. Okay, so anyway, she was one-ish. And we're talking, and all of a sudden Preston had came up, and he's listening to our conversation, and he like won't stop staring at me. And I'm like, okay, who is this dude? And she's like, oh, that's Preston. And so we're all eating spaghetti, and we're eating dinner. My aunt made spaghetti, and so we're sitting down eating, and my uncle's like, oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you guys. Hey, Preston, this is the niece that I rolled your aunt's sand rail with. And he goes, what? No, that was you. I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, so that was your aunt's sand rail? He's like, yeah. Oh man, my cousin was so mad at you guys. He was so pissed because now he couldn't drive it because he was going to be able to drive it and all this stuff. And he was telling me how mad he was. So crazy how it's all connected. Weird. Isn't that weird? Just me? I just think it's weird. So, um, he and I were talking for a little bit, and before, like, the weekend goes by, and then before we're supposed to leave, at his mom's house, she was throwing a pool party, and he invited all of us to go because he was like, "Hey, are you still gonna?" He was telling my uncle, he's like, "Hey, are you still gonna go over to the pool party?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna try to make that." He's like, "You know what? They could come. I know that they got to leave, but maybe they can come and then hang out and swim and have dinner before they get on the road." And so we all went, and he was like, well, I'm going to have a way to contact you. Like right as we pulled up, and I'm getting my kids out of the car before we even go into his house, into his parents' house. He has his own house, but he shoot, I got it out of track. Yeah, he came over to the car, and he was like, well, I need a way to get a hold of you. What's your number? And so I'm like, wow, bold. Um, how do I know you're not like a psychopath? And he's like, just seriously, can I have your number? And I'm like, all right, I guess. So I gave him my number. And then he showed me around his house. Like, okay, well, this is where I grew up. And I was like, okay, interesting. Um, and then he, we were talking, we're all outside talking. And my uncle, this must have actually been on Memorial because my uncle was, yeah, it was Memorial weekend, not 4th of July, because he was going to come up for 4th of July because we are talking about going to Pyramid Lake and my uncle coming up for 4th of July over at Pyramid Lake. And he straight up tells his parents, he's like, hey, I'm going to need time off because he worked for his family business. They chop all the cow feed, all the dairymen's feed for the cows. So they're in charge of chopping all that. And so he worked for the family business for a really long time. And he was like, I'm gonna need that off because I'm going. I'm going up there. And they saw how he kept like following me around everywhere and being all 30 and stuff like that. And my uncle was just, he started laughing, and he's straight up just was like to his dad, like, no, I'm going. Like, and then he did, and he kept coming over. He would try to make trips, and he would come up with my cousin sometimes because my cousin's like, "Hey, I want to go," so they would drive together and come visit. And this like every other weekend type of thing. And then he dropped a bomb on me on like his old relationship, and that was when I was like, I think we need to break up. I was like, I think we're moving too fast, number one. Number two, um, clearly you need a friend more than you need a girlfriend. And I'm not going to drag two kids into something that's not going to work out. I'm looking for marriage. Period. We're looking for marriage. And this, I don't think is going to work out because of what you just told me. That's something that you need to work on. But we can stay friends. Like, seriously, we can stay friends. I can help you work on it. You know what I mean? It'll be fine. And, I was kind of waiting on someone anyway. It's fine, blah, blah, blah. And this is just a sign that I need to just stay put. Um, and then, so we're just friends at this point. Okay, what he had told me was that he was on and off in his last relationship, and he's still kind of not over her. Um, but she was a married woman to one of his best friends. So, yeah. Anyway, when I feel like when he found out that I was waiting on someone is when he really um, put a lot of effort into not being that guy, and tried everything he could to like win. Like all of a sudden it's a competition, and he just wanted to win, right? And so, like, okay, listen, when you get hit in the head with a beer can, and you have to go through your whole life, you tend to backtrack down a rabbit hole of like reliving everything, like everything. And it brings up a lot of stuff because it's all stuff that you yourself have to work on. I myself had to work on a lot of the stuff, and a lot of it is letting it go and forgiving it. But that doesn't mean that I have to forget, and it doesn't mean that I can't talk about it. That doesn't mean just because I'm talking about it doesn't mean that I finally learned how to let it go. It did take me 6 years, but um uh I'm able to talk about it because I understand now the letting go. And again, I'm going to get to it toward the end of the whole higher purpose of all of this sharing. Okay. But so some time went by, and we would go visit each other back and forth. And I hadn't heard anything for a while because, Dee's on his mission. And so he had called. It'd been like 6 months, and he had called, and I was like, well, I don't know, and I guess I said this more of like as a challenge. And maybe it wasn't worded good or whatever. And I was like, maybe we had our chance, and I kind of, part of me, I think, was just seeing if he would actually just show up, and then that would be like my answer, right? And I think because that didn't happen the way my mind created it, then I just took it as a sign of like, oh, well, maybe I'm just supposed to move on. And so, but before that, before I got married, before all that, he had contacted me. 6 months had gone by, and he had contacted me. He's like, hey, I need to see you. Like, I was able to come here for a little bit, and I need to see you. And so meet me at this bar. And so we talked for a little bit. I do feel bad about this. I did slap him. I was like, honestly, I want to slap you. He's like, I deserve it. Go ahead. And I did. I did. And I do feel bad. And then I took the shot, and then I made the bartender I was like, do 2 more of those, and it's on his tab. Oh, it was funny. I don't, oh my gosh, I know why I needed to bring that up. Okay, so if you're watching, because I know you are, I need you to remember, I don't remember what was said, because although it came out of my mouth, it wasn't me saying it, because remember who I said my spirit guide was? Like literally like entered in my body and told you what you needed to hear because they're for your ears. He needs you to remember that. That's the significance of this video specifically. Oh my gosh. Interesting. It was because of what I told you. But I don't know what it was. I don't remember what it was because dude, I don't know how to explain that. Because I know I was saying something to you, but I couldn't even hear what I was saying. Like, I don't even know what it was. Because it wasn't me. That was directly for you and your ears only. And I was the only vessel that could deliver it. So whatever spirit guide that was, I know it was Joe. So I know, because I know when he's around. He has a different aura about him. Because I know when my grandpa's around, I know when all of them are around, they all have a different energy and aura about them. And literally sometimes you can actually see their figure, and that also has to deal with the sacred geometry that I see, which we'll get into that too, of how I see it and stuff. But yeah, shoot, now I forgot what we were getting at. Kind of got on a loop. I do that. I talk in circles. I gotta go check on Levi real quick and see if he needs anything to eat for breakfast. I will be right back, and then we'll continue story time. Okay, so I forgot to tell about something. So like during me and D dating, it was funny because, so I stopped bartending after a while, as I was pregnant with Riley, and I went to night school, and I went to night school to do medical transcription. So I do have a lot of medical stuff in my background, and that's just what I study. I'm studying now to be an Ayurvedic doctor, because it's in my line to be a healer. So, and this is actually what my doctor, who helps me with my brain injuries, it's actually what she recommended me study. But anyways, so I'm studying, and one night, like I'm at school, and one night I was coming home from school, but I didn't want to go home yet, and this is back before they had Find Friends on your phone, so it's not like I could track them, but Joe was like, oh, just go hang out with D. He's over at blah 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 bar. And I was like, okay. So it's like up the street from Straw Hut Pizza. There's another bar up the street, and he was there waiting on his buddy so they could go. I don't know what their plans were, but so sure enough, I pull in and there's his truck, and I was like, oh, I don't know, this could be weird. Like, what if that like just gives stalker vibes or something, like, I don't know, man. And Joe's like, just go in, he won't care. And so I go in, and he's ordering his drink, and so he hasn't seen me yet, and I'm like, I can't, I'm turning around. So I turn around, and he had turned around, and he saw me try to leave, and he goes, Janice? And I was like, oh. So I turn around, I'm like, yeah. He's like, what are you, come over here, why are you sneaking out? Were you here meeting someone else? And I was like, no, I just didn't want it to be weird. Like what if it seemed like I stalked you? Like Spirit said you were here, so like, hey, I'm here, because I didn't want to get off. I just got off school. Like, is it weird? I can go. I don't want it to be weird. Like, I don't want to ruin your night. You probably have plans. He's like, it's fine. Like, get over here. And then he's like, I was just talking about you to this bartender right here. I was like, look, this is my girl, and look, it's our baby. Blah 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 blah. Like, aw, so cute. Like, what? And like, it was just still fresh, so. It's not like we were talking super serious stuff. Not that I didn't want to, it just, we're trying to be slow. He just got out of a relationship, I got out of a horrible thing. We were just taking our time. And it was cool. We were cool with that. A lot of our dates consisted of going to Wendy's, because I would be like, I don't really care about going to fancy places. Let's just go to, can we just go to Wendy's and get a spicy sandwich, because I'm really craving spicy sandwiches right now. I did with my girls. I craved everything spicy. With my boys, I craved Italian sub sandwiches because it has all the meat. And I craved gummy worms. It's not just any kind of gummy worms. They had to be the sour gummy worms. Or the, how do you pronounce that? It's in the gold bag of gummy bears. Those are the only things that I really craved. So it was just kind of funny. I didn't share that part, and it just needed to be shared because it's funny. And weird, because that happens to me all the time about anything or anyone. Even with my uncle, that happened once with him. And I'll get into that in a second, because it's going there in a second. Okay, I need to take off my jacket and switch positions because the sun is getting a little hot. Shoot, what was I saying? Brain. Ugh, I hate the camera sometimes because I'm not good with my angles. And so, sometimes I'm just like, girl, you could have done a better angle. Please forgive me, because I am not tech savvy and I'm not good with these fish face angle thingies going on. It's annoying. So, it's stuff that literally people don't ever talk about on YouTube when creating it. I just jumped into this I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm sure that's obvious. And I don't care. I really don't care. I'm shameless about it. It's fine. I jumped in. I don't know. I'm not good at tech. I never was a tech girl. And I was always a nerd on studying things, but never a tech girl. So you get what you get. Okay, it's just for documentary purposes. It's fine. Who cares? Clearly not me. Except for I do. When I make myself look bad. But whatever. Because of angles, and you don't know how to do that, huh? Whatever. Okay. I remember what it was that I needed to say. Okay, so fast forward, because I forgot that detail. And then fast forward, because it's significant that you know that I was no longer bartending and was I was working for a orthopedic surgeon. So man, where do I jump this into? How do I fit this in where you guys will understand? So during the time of when D was on his mission, before we met up at the bar and I slapped him and all that stuff, before that, that was when I was working. I got a job right after after graduating from the school thing, because time had gone by. I graduated. It's 18-month thing or 6-month thing. I don't remember. It was fast, and you work kind of at your own pace at it, and it was easy, but also awesome. I learned a lot of stuff. But I ended up working for an orthopedic surgeon, and that was when I was dating Preston. So then that phone call had happened, and then met up at the bar, and then so other circumstances happened. Remember, he had to go back and finish the mission. He's Catholic, so they do other missions. It's not like a Mormon mission. All churches do different things. Okay, so anyway, so he's off on that, and I am kind of seeing Preston, and yeah, how do I explain this part? So my dad had gone through some other stuff. I know that sounds like a cat, huh? We don't have cats. Anywho, So my dad had gone on another binger, and this time my mom and I had to go, so he rode our stallion to the 7-Eleven down the street to go get more beer, but he already was drunk. Did you know you can get pull over riding drunk on your horse? Did you know that? Me either, until this day. Kind of crazy. But that happened. And at this point, we're about, like, other shenanigans had gone on. Me and my brother had contacted the cops a few times. We've had to do police reports a few times during a lot of this time of me getting to know Preston, and then also, you know, kind of having to like make a decision of like who is it that I'm gonna like choose, basically. And a whole lot of twisted events went on. Essentially splitting us for sure, me and D. And because it's not like he could just swoop in and rescue me for my thing. He also had his stuff going on. And then it's like I ended up calling my uncle because I had to take my dad into the psych ward that day. It was the 5th police report that we wrote on him, because of, and it sucks because my son had to witness a lot of this, and Papa was his only like actual father figure for a while, and he's 5 at this time. And yeah, so he witnessed a lot of stuff that a child shouldn't have to witness. That didn't, I mean, he still kind of is a little traumatized of that. He'll be 20 this year, and it still like really bothers him what happened. But anyway, so my mom had to go get the horse. I took my grandpa's van because my dad had blocked the gate from us getting in to get a vehicle to come out because he hid all the keys, and no one could move vehicles to get a vehicle. So my mom had to go walk the horse back and get him back in the pasture, and I had to take him to the psych ward in my grandpa's van. And we're driving there, and he's sitting there threatening to kill me the whole drive. And I'm like, hey, Maynard, that's fine. I am recording everything right now. Look, I have my phone on my lap, and I'm recording you. So go ahead and say whatever you want to keep saying. I'm recording everything. And he's like, so he just kind of like shut up. And I get to the hospital at St. Mary's, and we're walking through the halls, and he's like, you know, we don't have to be here. We don't need to do this. We have a bunch of lawns to mow. We got to catch up on things, and then I got to get back on the railroad, and blah, 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 blah. And we can't miss on our work, and this is all dumb. This is all stupid. Like, I learned my lesson. It's blah. And I'm like, no, Maynard, you're going in. This is far too much. You already have 5 police reports on you. Like, it's far too much. You've gone too far with this, and you need help. You need help. And no, keep walking, or I'm going to punch you all the way through. Just keep watching. Just keep walking. And he's like, so we keep walking. And I'm making sure he's in front of me so that we keep going, you know, and he can't like escape behind me, and I'm just like clueless. So he's in front of me, and we get to the area where we have to check him in, and this poor guy, dude, he clearly just had surgery on his legs or something, and he was in a wheelchair, and he had to witness some stuff, like him threatening again that, oh, you're all gonna die when I get out of here. You're all gonna die. I'm gonna kill all of you, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, can you hurry up with this paper process? He needs someone right now. Like, I'm starting to get scared for my life right now. Let's hurry up. And then I had to yell at him, like, you better knock this off right now, or they're gonna cuff you. And they're gonna drag you back there, and they're gonna treat you like shit because you're being an asshole. So shut the fuck up, and you're gonna sign this paper, get over here and sign this paper, and you're gonna do what you're told. Or they're gonna put you in jail. Do you wanna go to jail? Finally shut up again. They finally came, got him, and his last words, he looks at me and he's like, you're dead. And I'm like, okay, bye. And they're like, he'll definitely have to be held for 72 hours. And we'll go from there. If he's still not showing signs of improvement,
we'll hold him a little longer, but we can't hold him past 5 days. So I'm like, all right. So anyways, I ended up making a call to my uncle, and he was like, you get out of there, your kids aren't safe. And I ended up moving in with him. I had to quit my job, and I moved in, me and my kids, moved in with him and my aunt and my 2 cousins, because the other one had just moved out into his own place. And so we took over his room. So this is October 23rd that I left. Remember that date. So October 23rd is when I left, 14 years ago now. Okay, remember those dates. 14 years. It gets crazier, I promise. It's not even over with the crazy. So a week goes by. It's now Halloween, and my cousin decided she was going to be part of a costume competition with her friends that was happening downtown. And so she's at this thing, and my aunt and I, she's at work, and my aunt and I were finishing up her costume. It just needed like a few more beads in a certain area, so we're helping with that. And my uncle had just taken Justin shopping at Sam's Club with him, and they just got home, and me and my aunt are sitting at the table. I'm facing the sliding glass door, and she's facing that way at the TV, and the sink's over here. So my uncle was scrubbing off some weird sticky stuff that were on the bananas. And you know how like you're all taking turns talking, and when someone breathes in, you know they're about to take their turn? Well, my uncle, like, I can't see him, he's behind me, and so it was like he was gonna have his turn to talk, like he breathed in, and then all of a sudden, like, nothing came out. So curiously, I just, looked behind him like, you're gonna finish what you're gonna say? And he was just stiff as a board, and his body was starting to shake, and then he fell, and he hit his head on the chair that my aunt was sitting in, like, just like, the little things that hold the legs. It's like the wood in between that holds the legs of the chair. That's where he hit his head. And my aunt didn't see any of it. It's like out of the corner of her eye, but she's paying attention right here sewing. So she just heard a thud, and she goes, "Did you just fall?" And I'm like, no, seriously, Auntie, look, he's convulsing, he's purple, and he's foaming up the mouth. And she jumps off the chair, and we call 911. Well, it turns out that he has a tumor. So they had to go through surgery, and while that was all happening, I ended up staying the night over at Preston's house. I took my kids just so they could, deal with this new situation, okay? It's already been a week. I've already had to change their lives. Now their lives are being changed because now he has a tumor in his brain, and he has to be operated on, and all this stuff. So since Preston was going to be gone for 2 weeks in Germany, because they do a business trip there, or it was like a week or something like that in Germany, and they take a business trip in there because a lot of their equipment comes from Germany. And so they have this thing, and sometimes they'll bring people over as kind of like how schools would do that with student exchange. Well, they do that with working visas as well, so they can get experience working here as well in the States. And then so they're part of that program. So they were going over there anyway, and he needed someone he's like, "Hey, you can watch my dog for me and just stay here while they're trying to cope with all that." So like, okay, I moved half of my stuff to his house because it wouldn't fit all at my uncle's, and I didn't want to like move into his house because what if it didn't work out? Like, it would have been weird, so I didn't want to, like, I put some of my stuff in like a spare room of his, but not in like his room, you know what I mean? Anyway, so I'm staying at his house, and I had to go back and forth to kind of babysit my uncle. And one of the cool things about one of my gifts about visions is that I can look in on someone if they're not around me, and I can see what they're doing. So like, I did this a lot with my uncle because it reached a point where you could tell he was getting bugged by having a babysitter. But he did have to relearn stuff. He had to relearn how to write. He had to relearn how to speak. He had to relearn some stuff. And he was told that he's not allowed to do anything, but I know my uncle well, and I know he's been dying to do his daily routines and his stuff and get back to normal life. And so I started to slowly back off a bit. I would try to make myself busy, like, hey, I gotta go to the store to get some ingredients for dinner, for tonight's dinner, because I would always make sure that they had dinner made so that when my aunt came home, she didn't have a whole bunch of stuff to do and she could just relax and just hang out with him. So I tried to make sure that there was stuff ready to eat, because they're already going through enough, you know what I mean? And I was just super grateful that they were able to take us in and help me through my stuff. So I was just trying to repay the favor, you know? And so I made sure there's always dinner and that things were taken care of and he wasn't moving a muscle, because I know you're a clean freak and you like to clean, 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 clean. And so I go home for a second. I go do the store thing and get the ingredients that I need. I go home real quick. I clean up some stuff at my house. Did a couple loads of laundry. I'm giving him time. Slowly I started giving him time and space to feel like a human. I get it. I know what it's like to have someone in your house and you feel like you can't just do your normal activities. You feel like you can't be you and you just want to be you. And I know, because I have my own brain injury, so I understand. And it's hard. You just want things to be normal, but you don't even know what normal is. And so you're just going about your day trying to create normal. And it's hard. And it's definitely hard when someone else is in your space. So I slowly would just like give him time, just have his own alone time. Well, one time I'm doing dishes and I'm like, okay, we need to go soon. And I'm like, I gotta look in on him. So what I do is I kind of just zone out and I picture where they're at, and then it'll show me, like I'll picture their face, whoever I'm trying to look in on, and it'll show me what they're doing. If they're sitting and zoned, then obviously they're watching TV. You just got to kind of put two and two together. But I saw him getting the shampooer out and shampooing carpet. He was shampooing. When I got there to their house, he was just now finishing up. And I pretended I didn't notice, because he knew if I told Auntie that he would get yelled at for doing something. And I was like, hey, so blah, 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 just like acting like, and he's like scrimmaging through to go put the stuff away. I knew. I know you, it's all right. And so like, I just was like, I'm not going to tell Aunt Wendy. I'm not going to tell Auntie. Nope. I'm not going to tell her. But he did totally shampoo the whole house. I'm sure she already knew, because by the time she got home, she's like, clean. It's clean. It's clean. She knows him. She knows the routine he does. It's like once a week he has to shampoo everything. He loves that little shampooer. He's like really good at it. If you need stains out, call Uncle. Call him. He knows. Okay? He knows. It's like Danny Tanner, okay? On Full House. He knows all the stains. Oh, it's funny. So, a few months goes by, and okay, so it was Christmas time, because that was all around Halloween. So in Christmas time, no, let me backtrack. I visited the dunes again for the first time since that sandrail accident, and we're all there, and Presto took me on a ride in his sandrail, and I was getting car sick, but I could not figure it out until the end of the ride. It all came flashing back, and he started weaving in and out of the bushes, and it flashed back, and I was like, stop, I want out. I need out of the car. And he goes, what? And I'm like, I need out of the car. And so we keep weaving, and I'm like, no, and I'm starting to cry, and he stops, and I'm like, I'll walk, it's fine, because I'm crying, and I didn't want him to see me cry. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, no, I'm not, I don't want to talk about it. I just want to go, and I'm gonna walk. I can see the camp from here, and I'm gonna walk, because I told you not to go in and out of the bushes. I didn't want to do that, because the whole flashback of the accident and not dodging bushes anymore and then going off a cliff and dying and seeing God, like, no, I'm good. I don't want to go. I'll walk. But I was like, I understand now why I'm getting car sick, because I have this intense fear and didn't even realize until we went through the bushes. And so I told him the whole story, and I was like, I never told anybody. That was the very first time that I told the story of what happened. And he was like, oh my gosh, like, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know, like, it was that bad. And so, like what someone could go through, you know? Like, people don't think about what they actually go through when they go through it. And so he's like, okay, I get it. No more bushes. I won't go near any ever for the rest of the trip. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But I just want to go back. And so we drove back slowly, and all was fine. A month later, we got engaged on Christmas. And then on Christmas, his sister, she had already gotten engaged, one of his sisters. And this is when beef started with us. Like, his whole family has never really liked me, like, ever, because, you know, I have 2 kids out of wedlock by 2 different guys, so I'm trash. And so we never really got along. And especially after this, me and one of his sisters definitely didn't get along. She hated me, and it wasn't even my fault. Like, I told him that I'm like, no, because I don't want to steal her thunder. She's here visiting. She's all the way in Boston. Like, she's here visiting specifically to celebrate their engagement with the family. And here you are, gonna want to drop a bomb on everybody that we just got engaged. And I don't think that we should. I don't want to steal her thunder. It is what it is. And he ended up slamming my hand on the counter and showing his mom. And then no one had come over yet to see his sister. No one had come over yet. And she calls down at Aunt's house, and they live next door. So they all come rushing over to come congratulate me and Preston. And then congratulated them. But also, like, to be fair, everybody else already had congratulated her online and calls and stuff like that. So, but whatever. Still, it was me stealing thunder, and it was bad. But then I ended up retaliating, because I was like, no, you're not going to just treat me like that. You're not going to treat my kids like that either. And then me and her mom, because she's me and his mom, because, well, their mom, they're super duper Mormon, okay? And she's super duper strict, and she was trying to make sure she made sure I was picking a dress that's going to cover me all the way. But what you don't understand about me is there's certain fabrics, and most dresses are made out of that certain fabric that just make me so wet. My armpits can't handle it, okay? There are things, it'll irritate it, and then I'll just sweat because my armpits are irritated by that fabric, okay? I'm not going to wear a dress on my wedding day that's going to make me have to sweat, and I'm going to have sweat rings all on my wedding dress on my special day. No, thank you. So unless that super modest top you want to show me has a lot of armpit airflow, ain't gonna happen. Okay? No. I picked the dress that I picked. More armpit flow. Thank you. Anyways, but the sister was getting mad because we're looking at dresses, and she hadn't looked at dresses yet with her mom yet. So she had to say, that's fine and all, congrats, but February is our month. Blah, 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 blah. And she was like pissed. She was treating me and my kids like crap. So I was like, that's fine. How's January sound? To Preston. And so we ended up getting married a month later, because that all happened on Christmas and Christmas time. And then we got married a month later. So super fast. Everything moved super fast. The first lie was keeping the strip club down in Mexico from me. And then what sucks was while he was down there, I was going through our wedding photos to see which ones I wanted to get printed that my sister took. She took all of our photos, and they're all loaded up on his computer. And you know what I got to see?
Okay, sorry, my camera died and I had to recharge my phone because that's what I filmed on. Okay, so we were getting to what I found on through our wedding photos, and it was naked pictures of him and his ex. Funny how that's coming back around, but a stranger. Anyway, besides the point. So, and it wasn't all bad, you guys. Like, we had a lot of good times. On our honeymoon, we actually went on a cruise through the Caribbean. That's what it was, the Caribbean, and got to island hop, and that was pretty cool. We made a lot of good memories. We've had a lot of good memories. Don't get me wrong. We've gone to a lot of places, Mexico a couple of times, um, and with some friends, and went to the river and all that stuff. And we'll get into that in a second. So we we ended up having two more kids. He ended up adopting my two oldest, and then we had two others, my daughter and then my son. Who my son is a he's the survivor twin, and we found out at birth that we were having twins. Um, and he ended up with hydrocephalus, which is water on the brain, and so he has a shunt in the back of his head, and it's controlled by a magnet. So we do have to go in and get MRIs once a year at least, and he started to develop seizures when he was about 5. Yeah, hold on, I gotta backtrack because there was another God incident here. I totally skipped over it. So when he was born, um, when they told me the news of him having hydrocephalus, uh, my husband had just gone to go get the other kids so that they can come meet their new little brother. And so they had to take him immediately to NICU because they noticed that something was wrong. So I decided to clean up. I took a shower and I was getting ready to go over to NICU to go see him. And I get in there, and the nurse is like, "Hey, before you hold him, the doctor wants to talk to you, so we need to go back to your room." And I was like, "It's okay, they can sit here. I know the HIPAA law and stuff, but like, literally, there's only one other baby, and there's literally no one in here." And they're like, "I know, but rules are rules." So I was like, "Okay, whatever." So we go in back to my room, and I'm sitting on the bed, and she has a social worker with her. And so it's just her and the social worker, and we're waiting for the doctor. And I'm like, "Okay, seriously though, like, I know something's up." Remember, no one else is in the room, just those two, and they're standing in front of me. Okay, Preston's gone, no one else is in the room. Behind me is just a window. Okay, and um, the doctor come. Like, I was just like, I know something's up, and she's like, "I know, we just have to wait for the doctor though, because they have to be the one that diagnose things. I'm just a nurse, I don't have that say unless the doctor, something bad happened to him and no one else could tell you." I'm like, "Okay." So we're sitting there waiting, and he comes in, and he's actually the pediatrician to my other kids, so I kind of know him pretty well because we go to him all the time. And he started to get choked up. He's like, "Man, I feel like I know you because I see you all the time, um, because I'm your pediatrician, and but your son has hydrocephalus." And the thing is, we did a sonogram on his head because the other machines were taken, and we just needed to check him out fast. And we only see a brain stem, we don't see a brain. And I've seen this many times before, and the kids only lived to be for like 3 days. And in that moment, God put his hand on my shoulder, and it was so strong that I like seriously had to stop and just look at my shoulder. And then he said really loud and really clear, "They're wrong. Everything's going to be okay." And so he's like, mention Uncle Chris if you must. So my uncle happens to be one of the top neurosurgeons in the country. So I said, "Listen, you know that no one else is behind me, but the hand on my shoulder right now is so strong, and his voice is so loud that I can't ignore it." But he said, "You're a doctor, you know doctors. You're wrong. You're a doctor, you know doctors." Um, and my uncle happens to be one of the top neurosurgeons in the country. I don't care if we have to go all the way down there. He's in Phoenix, Arizona. I don't care if we have to go all the way down there. And because we're in Bakersfield at that time, and I'll go there if I have to. And he's like, well, I do know a doctor, but he's in LA. And I was like, okay, get on the phone. You're wasting time. So the he went and took made a phone call, and the social worker was like, okay, we just have never had this reaction before. Like, maybe it just hasn't hit you yet. And then the nurse was like, you know, we have to tell your husband. So like, and he's on his way back, right? I'm like, yeah, he should be getting the kids. And she's like, well, how do you want to tell him? And that's when I started to cry, because I like pictured a flash image of how he was going to take it, and then just to see the look on his face would have broke my heart. So I was like, you know what, you have to tell him. So she did end up having to tell him, and we finally did get to hold him. And his dad came and did a prayer and said a blessing or whatever, and I felt God again just hugging us and just more reassuring that everything's good, everything's going to be okay. And you can tell that they've never heard a blessing like that, and you could tell the whole room could feel it. And when it was time to load him in the load him in the ambulance to take him down, uh, I just hugged the nurse. I was like, everything's gonna be okay. You just gotta trust. You gotta just trust that God's got it handled. And so we went home and packed our stuff, ate some dinner, and took the trek there, and ended up being at like 3 o'clock in the morning when we got there. And we were able to watch the CT scan go on. And everything was good, dude. Like, his brain is all there, like, everything's good. And he got to be the first surgery that day. They bumped him to the first because he was a newborn. So, here's a picture. We ended up being there for 12 days and stayed in the Ronald McDonald. Um, they have a program where they help families stay there while their loved ones are in the hospital and stuff like that. It's actually a really cool program. Um, so yeah, he's had a few surgeries. A year later, he ended up having to do a facial reconstruction surgery, and man, that kid is a champ. Whew, my actual hero, he is. He's been through a lot of surgeries. Part of why we moved back to my home state is to be closer to my family, because through all of his surgeries, I was pretty much alone through it. Like, my in-laws hated me so much that they couldn't even like help with that. Like, my husband had to actually force them to babysit our kids just to get to know our kids. Not all of them, just some, mostly his mom, and then some of the sisters. But yeah, brothers were all kind of normal. One's kind of just an angry guy, but still more normal than the girls. Until they all started having kids of their own. Then they were different. And this is not including the other married in-laws. They were normal. It was almost like we had our own little group because we all felt like so much outcast. The guys, though, they were always loved. Like, the guys that married in, they were always treated well, and they were nice. And Like they've always just loved the guys. But every girl that ever married in has a story. During COVID, Levi had to do a surgery on his leg. Turns out, because he has cerebral palsy as well in his legs, so we've had to do all kinds of therapy. I actually took him out of physical therapy when he was 3, and I put him in gymnastics because me and the therapist had a disagreement on how to work his legs. And I was totally refusing Botox injections because Botox is horrible for you. And it, and even she said, what it's going to do is basically when we stop using it, it will eat his muscle away. And then we'll have to like start over basically because now we'll have to make him gain weight and build muscle again. And I'm like, dude, if you just give him core, because if you watch and you really observe how he's walking in the make sure my battery's still on in the boots you guys are giving him, if you really watch, because he had twister cables on, so there are these shoes that have like a wire that you can manipulate to either turn in or turn out more, whatever his feet turned in, so they'd have to adjust it to turn his feet out. And then it's kind of like a belt that they're held on, but it doesn't give you any support in your core. And if you're really watching, and if you watch how you take a step, like go look in a mirror, watch how you take a step. And if you can do this like in your swimsuit, that'd be better, or your underwear. And just like watch how your abs and your obliques engage while you're moving your leg up. Because you don't just like shuffle your legs. You don't just like scoot along. You lift, because why? You don't want to trip. So you lift, but that lift has to come from your core. And your core is attached to your legs, and that's what helps move. Okay? So when you're really, and you're a physical therapist, so why don't you know this, right? Like I'm super observant, so maybe that's just my gift, is that I just see what others don't. I don't know. But like, that's how I was able to come up with all the workouts that I come up with. But I just watch myself in the mirror and I watch which moves are actually working, what's actually moving, what's actually doing something. So anyways, I'm watching and I'm like, he just needs more core strength. You're not working anything on his core. You can't move if you have a weak back, you got a weak back muscle and you got weak abs, you're not going to move well at all. You need to be stable in your core to be able to move your lower half at all. So what are you doing? So we had this argument, I'm like, thank you for your time, thank you for your services. I'm putting him in gymnastics. So I did. And he was in it for a year. It's expensive. So we were only able to do a year, but I learned a lot. I watched a lot while I was studying to do the medical transcription stuff. And we watched a lot. And that ended up not working out because my husband ended up doing I got off. We talked in a circle just now because I was talking about his surgery on his leg. We'll get to it. Bear with me because I had to backtrack. I should have written this down, that way I stay in order, but I didn't. I started to. I'm getting off track. Anywho, so crap, I forgot what I was gonna say. This is how it works. I'm sorry, brain injuries. It is. So we're getting back to the leg because, yeah. So that all happened. I kept up with it. I kept up with the gymnastics, what I learned and watched. So over the years, I've been his physical therapist, and helping him strengthen his core and help him strengthen his legs. And we've done a few videos actually. So during COVID, we had to end up getting his femur bone cut in half and twisted straight. They call it it was a left derotation of his femur. Because turns out, because I needed to get him new braces for his shoes, so that his feet stay straight. And the new doctor that we were prescribed, because sometimes they change doctors out, it's Kaiser that we had, so they're always shifting around people. And this doctor, he's like, well, I want to, since it's COVID, they had to went over FaceTime. And he's like, well, I want to watch him walk and I want to watch this. Okay, I want you to go in. I want to get you an x-ray. And it's like, it kind of dawned on me, why didn't anyone else want an x-ray of his stuff, because that's when we found out that no amount of therapy, no amount of footwear, no amount of cable braces and stuff like that is going to help because his femur bone is twisted, which is why his leg comes in. Literally, the bone was twisted. So we decided to go ahead and do it, the surgery, and it was through COVID because they can't go to school anyways. He's going to have to miss out on that anyways. We don't know how long this COVID crap is going to be. Everyone's kicked out of school. Like, you may as well just do it. So we did. And they also went in, so they cut that in half, they put a plate on it, screwed it in, and then they also went in and cut his hamstrings, so that the tendons in it, so that his legs wouldn't be so tight as he's trying to move and walk. And they were going to do that to his Achilles tendons, but they noticed that when he was asleep, like, he was really relaxed and he can like make his feet move and manipulate them. But it's like when he's awake, everything's turned on, so everything's like just really tight and can't move. You can't like force it to do anything. And so, but they did have to cast his feet to sit upright, like how you would be if you were standing, because he had to have 6 months of not being able to bend his knees, and he had to be on bed rest. So it would have made his feet lame if they didn't cast his feet. So at any time, it would have been nice, in-law who say you care so much, come over and help me. You know what? It pissed me off. This was my last straw because she did the whole year, my mother-in-law. She's got 10 kids, okay? So she's got like almost 50 grandkids already. And it's freaking awesome, right? But this was my last straw, and this is where I lost all respect. Is the kind of surgery he went through. You know what we're up to. We know what we're going through. Not once do you ever stop by anyways. You live 30 minutes away from us. We moved to the south side of north side of Bakersfield. We were in the south side. And then you, that year, could have come over and checked on your grandson at any point. Any point. And you know what you did do? You flew across the entire country to go visit all of your other grandkids. Not one phone call, not one, hey, Levi, how are you? That was my last straw. I'm done. I want to be close to my family because at least my family loves me enough to come over and check on me. That ain't family, that ain't love. I'm out. I'm out. And all you think of me is that I'm just some bitch because that's what Preston says, but he never tells you the truth of why. That's alright. I'll lay it all clear. Now you'll know. Yeah. Believe him, I am a bitch now. And that actually was after the beer can incident. So I guess we have to tell those stories now. But I'm going to make another video of that because this one's getting long now too. So see you at the next one. Make sure you subscribe. Hold on a second. I do have to come back on real quick. For my mother-in-law, I actually do have a message for you from Dan. So Preston's father had died in a car accident a week before his last child's wedding. He got hit by a drunk driver. And it was super horrible. Like, dude, that was the saddest thing ever. And he has a message for you. Ladybug, I did not kick you under that table because I gave a damn about protecting other people's hearts over yours. I kicked you under that table because I cannot save you from yourself. You and judging everybody all the time and the way you treat people. The way you treated me and my kids behind Preston's back. Because you'd be different when he's around. And I do have a couple witnesses to that. A couple of your daughters who did stand up for me here and there. It's BS, dude. Like, do better. I have the perfect Christmas gift. It's a placard you gave to your son. Try a little harder to be a little better.